hot Christmas injury, skull fractures, brain damage. Dr. Greg Fautheree is a neurosurgeon with the NeuroMedical Center. He's taking some time this morning to talk about how dangerous these are. Good morning, doctor.
Good morning, guys. How are you?
Fine. What are you seeing?
Well, we're seeing a spike in pediatric head injuries and also a big spike in orthopedic injuries from this product. I think that the message to get out is these should not be used, especially in children, without a helmet.
Well, that makes good sense. That makes good sense. Now, generally speaking, are you seeing a higher incidence of head injuries, pediatric head injuries, from these than you would from any other activity toy during the Christmas time, during Christmas season, bicycles or whatever?
Absolutely, and not just here, but across the country. Speaking with some of my colleagues, they've seen a good number of pediatric head injuries from this product. And the problem is the position that these kids are in riding is flat-footed and upright and leaning forward to propel. Mm-hmm. It's a very non-athletic position, and they're getting launched in awkward positions with slow reflexes, and it's very difficult to break that fall. When they do break the fall, they break their wrist or their arm if they're not wearing wrist guards or pads, and if they don't, they usually hit their head.
And speaking of hitting the head, now, some people are, well, all you did was fall down and bump your head, but how seriously can you injure your head from a fall of merely your own height?
Oh, severely if it's unbroken. If it's the first thing that hits the concrete, as these are being ridden on concrete for the most part, an unbroken fall traveling, anywhere from 10 to 15 miles per hour, you can do severe damage.
Doc, if an adult is trying to ride one of these and falls and hits their head, or if it's a child, how do they judge whether or not they should be seen by a physician pretty immediately?
If there's any loss of consciousness at all, they need to go to the emergency room. If there's a laceration that is more than minor and doesn't stop with some gentle pressure, they need to go to the emergency room. And if there's any changes in their level of thinking or consciousness in the hour or so after that head hit, they need to go to the emergency room.
With regards to swelling when you sustain a head injury, what's normal for the swelling to go down? And if the swelling doesn't go down, at what period should we say, wow, the swelling is not going down, we need to get somebody to a hospital?
Usually 72 hours or so. If you have a little hematoma or even a large hematoma over your eye or somewhere on your skull, with no mental status changes at all, 72 hours or so, that should go down.
Mm-hmm. What is the most severe injury in terms of head injuries that you and your colleagues have seen to this point? And of course, we got a long season of using these until they wear out. What's the most severe?
Thankfully, we haven't seen a severe head injury yet. We've seen a moderate head injury in an adult, actually, who was teaching this child how to ride and stepped off the front of the device, which is a big no-no. And then got it swept and spun him around, and he struck his head and had a contusion to the frontal lobe, which is a bleed into the frontal lobe. And thankfully, he was no worse for the wear. But that would be considered a moderate head injury.
Doctor, this is all reminding me of skateboards. I'm old enough to remember when skateboards first hit the market and everybody was sidewalk surfing, and we said the same thing. Very dangerous. Don't ride it without some kind of head protection. You're going to fall down, smack your head on the curb and crack it wide open. Is it pretty much the same thing?
It is. I think it's a little bit more dangerous because you're actually in an athletic position on a skateboard with your knees bent and ready to react, and that's not the case with these hoverboards. I think it should be lumped into the same category as skateboarding, snow skiing, football. All of these things have inherent risks, and we need to do what we can to lower those risks, and that includes helmets and probably pads and wrist guards.
Dr. Greg Fautheree is a neurosurgeon with the NeuroMedical Center. If you don't mind, as we get a couple weeks into the new year, we might check back with you and see how folks are doing with these things.
Absolutely. Thanks, guys.
Appreciate you being with us this morning.
All right.
And that's not even to speak of them blowing up. 6:42. We'll talk more about this as this story develops.